Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí, your host, and I am here to surprise you with something that I was surprised by this morning as I had this idea just a little while ago. I've decided that this week we're going to have a little series of 5 daily videos that I'm going to give you. Think of it as my holiday gift to you and to me. In fact, I decided to kind of take it easy this week and not do so much work. And that's actually usually when I get the most creative. And so I actually don't even think of this as work. This is fun for me. I get excited about having creative projects. So I thought, why not do this in the group? So we are going to have a 5-day year's end reflections video series, in which I'm going to, every day I'm going to come on and I will give you some prompts to help you reflect on where you're coming from 2021 and before, and where you'd like to go and where you'd like to see yourself heading in 2022. It's hard to say 2022. Gosh, already? Where did the time go? So I'm going to try to keep these on the short side, but if you know me, you know I like to share and expand on these ideas. So I'm going to aim for around 15-20 minutes, but today is the first video, so it might be just a little longer. And in exchange, I would be so grateful if you would just say hello in the comments, even if you're watching the replay. Just say hi and maybe respond and give me a little feedback, some comments on what you're thinking with about what I'm presenting. And then hopefully I'll be able to see your comments and maybe even have a little exchange. Okay, so I'm organizing these 5 daily videos on the topics of my 5 pillars of the Art of Freedom method. And just really briefly, if you are new to this group, if you're new to my work, I'm the creator of the Art of Freedom method for conscious living and masterful artistry, in which we learn how to bring the whole self and integrate the whole self with our music making. And so my work is based on the principles of the Alexander technique. I'm a double certified Alexander teacher, and I've also been trained for more than 6 years now, wow, in hands-free primal Alexander, which is the only training that is specifically geared towards teaching Alexander teachers how to teach without the without the hands, and very specifically online. I've been teaching online since 2012, I believe, and exclusively since 2018 because this way of working works so well. So if you've ever done any Alexander technique in the past with hands-on, the principles, the foundations are the same. This is pure Alexander technique. It is the real thing. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that it's not, because they don't even know what this is. So they can't know. This is cutting edge, revolutionary, and it's really good. Anyway, my 5 pillars of the Art of Freedom method put everything into a bigger context, like into your life as a musician. And we use Primal Alexander as the practical way. I use Primal Alexander as a practical way to transmit the ideas so that my students know exactly what to practice every day to make positive changes. But this bigger context of all of my coaching, private coaching and group programs is the Art of Freedom method, which has 5 pillars. Today is day 1 of our 5-day year's end reflections series. And so we're going to focus on the first pillar of the Art of Freedom method, which is purpose. And if you're here and you just want to say hi so that I can know somebody's out there and this is working, that would be really, really nice. I'm not seeing any comments popping up, but I'll just assume that it's Facebook's fault that they're not showing it to anybody. Algorithm is just, Anyway, hopefully you're watching this later and you can just give me a comment in the replay so that I know that this was working. Okay, so the first pillar of the Art of Freedom method is purpose. And that's what I'm going to talk about now for your day one series, day one of the series. If you do not know why you are a musician, and you don't know why you're practicing, and you don't know why you're performing, you don't know why you're going to lessons or teaching or studying, and basically if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, that is a recipe for lack of motivation and burnout down the road, or overdoing and pushing yourself to the point of pain and injury. So I feel like it's really, really important. And it's also, the other thing that it does is if you're not clear on your purpose, your whole balance can be out of whack, where you might know why you're a musician, but why are you a human being? Well, I don't know. I don't pretend to know the answer to that, although I have my ideas, right? But you need to have a kind of a purpose for your whole life to see where music fits into your whole life so that you can have your life in balance. If your life is out of balance, it's because you're not clear on why you're doing the things you're doing. And then you might be successful professionally, but then maybe not so happy at home or in your relationships. Or, there are all kinds of ways that your life can be out of balance. And I do feel that, this is why this is the first pillar of the Art of Freedom method, I do feel that purpose and having clarity about your intentions and your goals, both on a macro level and on a micro level, is absolutely essential to be fulfilled as a human being and as a musician. Professional, amateur, student, doesn't matter at what skill you are. It's just really important to connect with your why about whatever you're doing in life and music. So my idea for these daily videos is I'd like to give you actually a little time for quick reflection, just a little time. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I'm going to give myself a minute. I'm going to do this with you actually. I've got my pad of paper here and I'm going to jot down the idea. So here's what we're going to do. If you're game, you can, if you're watching the replay, just pause the video now and go get yourself some paper and pen. Hopefully, if you're with me live, you actually have that. So grab some paper and pen or pencil, whatever. And I'm going to give you 1 minute to just stream of consciousness, throw out whatever words come to mind when you think of purpose. And you can ask yourself, what is my purpose? And you can choose. You can make it about your life, like why am I here as a person? Why am I showing up and getting out of bed every day? Or you can keep it specific to your musical life. Why am I playing the violin or the piano or the flute or the harp? Why am I practicing? So you can choose how to do it. You can even do both. However you want to do it, I just want to give you a little time to jot down words about your purpose. And then later, after the video, you can go and look at the piece of paper, look at all those words, and see if you can put them all into 1 or 2 sentences that might inspire you the next time you go to practice. Read it first. This is why I'm practicing. Or put it in your case before the next performance. Read it. Read it before you go to sleep. Read it in the morning. You can think of it as a life mission statement. Actually, that's something I go in depth with for my private coaching clients. It's usually one of the first things that we do. Not always, but depending on the person. Usually it's one of the first things that I do is I encourage my coaching clients to really think about creating a life mission statement. And there is no obligation, but just wondering, just questioning, just getting curious about the purpose is even more important than having something, specific written down. And it's a work in progress. My goodness, you may have no idea what your purpose is right now, but just jot down words. They'll come to you. And then over time, if you keep thinking about it, maybe touch on it a little bit every day, you'll get more clarity if you're wanting more clarity, because what you focus on, you get more of. And when you ask, you do receive. when you ask the questions and you put them out there, something in your brain starts to shift and you start to hone in on what it is that you're looking for, guaranteed. If you have an open mind and you're willing to wait for the answers to come to you, they're more likely to come quicker, actually. So I'm going to set a timer, and we can just, actually maybe not even a whole minute. Let's do 30 seconds. This is really stream of consciousness. We're going to just, oops, that's not 30 minutes, Jennifer. 30 seconds. I'm setting a timer. Okay, so jot down whatever comes to your mind on the topic of your purpose as a musician or, yeah, in your life. Okay, ready, get set, go. Wow, that was fast. Okay, you get the idea. So you can continue that on your own, but maybe you just got a few words, right? So I've done this a lot. I've thought about purpose and my purpose, and I've talked with lots of my coaching students about purpose. I've also talked with my group classes about purpose. So this comes easily for me, and I'll just read you the first words that came to my mind because this is what I'm here about. Again, just stream of consciousness, what came to my mind. Love, joy, sharing, inspiration, beauty, meaning, depth, and healing. Okay, those are my first words. So I could put those into a nice little paragraph or sentence, which I actually have, but I update it every once in a while. So it's continually evolving and getting more and more clear about why I'm here. And a big part of why I'm here personally is to experience love, joy, meaning, depth, all those words, beauty, and to share it with all of you, and hopefully to inspire you to find that in yourself and then share that with your students, with your colleagues, with your audiences. I believe that that's a big part of why we are musicians, is really to experience who we are in our hearts and really get to know ourselves the best that we possibly can and integrate all aspects of who we are so that we can give our whole self to the music and to those who are lucky enough to hear it. Right? Okay, so again, this was just day one. I'm going to be doing a 5-day series. If you're just coming on, just a recap. Today's day one. Our topic is the first pillar of the Art of Freedom method for conscious living and masterful artistry, which is purpose. And again, just to really encourage you to do this, to take a little more time. Again, if you don't have a clear purpose and you don't have goals, whether they're long range or short range or both, they can be big goals or they can be as small as, okay, today I'm going to practice the Brahms Violin Concerto and I'm going to pay attention to the first chords on in the first line because they're not quite in tune, and actually that specific note is a little out of tune. And then there's that part with the octaves. So you can have very, very specific goals, but if you can connect the micro goals to the macro goals, like why do you care about playing double stops in tune? Well, if you really reflect on that, hopefully you will get a deeper reason that is going to motivate you more to work on those double stops and get them in tune so that you're happy with them. But you're also going to take into account the rest of your life, so you're not just going to focus on double stops and getting them in tune. We have a word for that in the Alexander technique. That's called end gaming, where you care more about the results than the process. And in the Art of Freedom method, you care more about one part of your life than your whole life. It's going to throw you off balance if you're pushing and over focusing, because maybe you'll over practice, you'll increase the tension in your body, which is going to lead to pain and quite likely injury down the road if you're not careful, if you don't check that now. like stop that. So you need to be able to have a perspective, a big perspective on all areas of your life and bring them into balance. But you can't do that if you don't really reflect on why you're doing what you're doing and what the areas of your life are and what's actually important to you and why. So you want to be able to put your musical life and your practicing into that bigger context, find balance, and then really work on the specific things, but never lose sight of the deeper meaning of why you're doing what you're doing. The other problem with not having a real purpose is the opposite. Like I just talked about, how if you overfocus and overpush because you want it so much and you forget the rest of what you want in life. The other thing is where you don't really know why you're doing it, and then you start losing motivation and not really caring, and then you don't really want to practice, and you just want to, but you don't really care so much about other things. That's a recipe for depression, quite frankly. And way too many musicians have emotional issues. That's documented. There's research on it. And speaking of emotional issues, performance anxiety is very often indirectly but seriously a result of not having your priorities in order, not having a clear picture of why you're doing what you're doing. And really, like when I did my stream of consciousness, the first word that popped up into my mind as for my purpose is love. Well, performance anxiety is a fear-based way of being, right? It really is. Just to be blunt about it, if you are in love and full of joy and enthusiasm, your body and mind are open. They're not in a contracted state, which is what causes the tension and the shaking and the heartbeat beating really fast, and all the symptoms of performance anxiety. Those come from fear. I mean, we all know that. That's obvious. You're afraid. You don't actually want to go to the audition because it's scary, or you don't want to go on stage because maybe you're not totally prepared, or just it's freaking you out that there's a critic in the front row, or whatever, right? But performance anxiety comes from fear. And if you don't continually remind yourself of the loving, big, important reasons that you are doing what you're doing, then you will fall into the startle pattern that happens when you're under stressful conditions, when you have the stress of an audition or stress of the performance. Of course, you're going to slip into fear-based thinking because you haven't practiced the other kind of thinking, which is all about purpose and the good, really deep, good reasons why you want to take the audition or why you want to perform, why you are a musician in the first place. So I'm going to wrap up right now. But before I do that, I just want to say the comments finally popped up. There are actually people here. Thank you for commenting because I'm using Facebook Live, and for whatever reason, the comments were not showing up. So I just want to say hello to Llewellyn from Durban, South Africa, and Barb. Hi, Barb. And Aboud, hello. I'm so happy you're here. Happy New Year. And David says, looking forward to hearing about the art of freedom, both for my teaching and myself. I'm so glad. That is great that you're here. And oh, that is so sweet. Aboud says, always remember how you changed all my fears to joy and happiness. Well, you did it. That's the thing. My students, when they take these teachings to heart, the 5 pillars of the Art of Freedom method are purpose, mind, body, spirit, and artistry. When you really go deep into all 5 of these and you bring them together and you put them into the context of the very practical, very specific teachings that I have my students do every day, just for a few minutes. We do awareness etudes that are from Primal Alexander. They're very, very clear, and they make all the difference in the world because you're practicing that kind of integration. You're practicing the self-observation and the self-reflection that you need to be able to bring it all together. And then you get really good at just being yourself under any conditions. And you just made my day, Abud, really. You made my day saying that the work that we did together changed all your fears to joy and happiness. Yeah, if anybody wants to check out a very happy violinist and really, really interesting, wonderful person, check out Abud's Facebook page and YouTube video and everything. Just, yeah, very, very inspiring. Thanks. So glad you're here. It's great. One more comment. I'm seeing Tiffany is from Chicago. Thank you for being here. I used to live in Chicago. It's probably, I mean, it's usually really cold in the winter, but today it's probably not that cold. In Cincinnati, it's ridiculously warm. It's about 50, which is very strangely unusual. So anyway, I'm so glad that you're all here. I am planning on showing up every day. I may pre-record if something comes up, but I'm here live now on Monday. This was the first of a series of 5 year's end reflections where I'm going to give you a little exercise to do every day based on the 5 pillars of the Art of Freedom method. Now I'm just going to sign off, but before I do that, I just want to remind you or tell you if you're not aware of this, I have a new program session starting in January of the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough. It's a 6-week program. You'll see in the description, I say more about that, so I'm not going to do that right now. But please message me on Facebook Messenger or email me at jennifer@artoffreedom.me. And just, if you're curious about any of this, just reach out to me and ask, and we can see if the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough, which is based on everything that I've been teaching today and the Alexander Technique principles, let's see if it's a good fit for you. And this is, it could be your beginning of a breakthrough year in 2022. My students consistently just love what I'm sharing with them, so I'm sure you would too. And yeah, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your last week of the year. Lots of love, everybody. Bye-bye.